How was the Wild West won? Well, it took men of a certain frame and caliber to ensure the hardships that came along with molding the American frontier into what it has become today. It all started with men like Wyatt Earp, the notorious lawman of Dodge City, then famous for his gunfight at the OK Corral, showed us the dual-sided nature of law in the Old West. Today, we will be looking at the hardened spirit of Wyatt Earp. We will look at 3 quotes from him that show his pragmatic nature, with a hard-nosed mind, who was set on survival and living life by unbreakable principles. These words we will look at have been attributed to the legendary lawman and entrepreneur, but accounts may vary. As always, we will rely on what exemplified his beliefs through media and various sources. Try to see how this man was able to avoid a gunshot while living the life destined to fill you with holes. This can show us how to live our own life by a set of principles that can help us lead with our fierce determination and belief in ourselves to tame whatever lands we come across in this wayward life. Who was Wyatt Earp after all? Wyatt Earp was a legendary figure of the American Old West, best known for his role as a lawman and gunslinger during the late 19th century. Born in 1848 in Illinois, he became famous for his involvement in the gunfight at the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona, in 1881, alongside his brothers Virgil and Morgan Earp and friend Doc Holliday. Earp worked various jobs throughout his life, including as a lawman, gambler, saloon keeper, and even a boxing referee, but it was his reputation as a fearless enforcer of the law in chaotic frontier towns that cemented his place in Western folklore. Despite controversy over his methods and actions, he has been romanticized in books and films as a symbol of justice and rugged frontier determination. We look at the life of a man such as this because it helps paint the history of where the mind of a determined man could get you when America was still being built. A man could truly forge a trail, even though in Wyatt Earp's case, he seemed to use his methods of principled control to conquer his ventures and leave an indelible mark on the Old West. Quote number 1. Fast is fine, but accuracy is everything. In a gunfight, you need to take your time in a hurry. This quote shows Earp's disciplined and calculated approach to violence and law enforcement. He believed in precision and control over reckless action, even in high-pressure situations. For most people, when stress is added to any situation, 2 things tend to happen, which are highly dependent on that person's personality. Either they fold, or they thrive under pressure. You'll find out who you really are in this world when you pressure test yourself. Not saying go pick a gunfight, but you can do this in many different ways. This is akin to performing in a high-stakes exam or catching the winning pass in a state finals game. When your adrenaline starts pumping, most people's hands start shaking from the dump of chemicals, but if you can harness this, it is the closest a human being can feel to being superhuman. Always keep your frame. You will hear me say that a lot on this channel, because it truly means staying within yourself, not letting any situation take you out of your confidence, letting it shake you into making mistakes. When doing something under pressure, one must slow their mind down, while keeping their reflexes and body quick as lightning. There are 2 schools of thought on this, either keeping your mind on something to tend your focus, or keeping your mind completely blank, as in a state of tranquil bliss. Either way, emotion is something I believe the heightened-minded person can tame and use to their benefit, not the other way around, because we have all seen that person who cannot control the words that come out of their mouths, let alone their anger and frustrations. A person who has mastery over their emotions has mastery over their lives. Number 2. The only thing that stops a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun, though variations of this idea have been echoed by others. This quote attributed to Earp reflects his belief in enforcing the law directly and forcefully when necessary. Most would see this as fighting fire with fire, but I believe, in life, you should not fight something with something of the same nature. If you were going to fight fire, use water or ice, because fighting fire with fire would be a cat's game. Simple. I believe that Earp is saying that when a man sees evil being done, then that man has a duty to stop it in any way he can, whether through aloof nature or fear. When we let evil men subjugate others, then we simply look the other way as if we have no dog in the fight, which in most cases, most people would just be content to mind their own business. And I do not blame them, because in this world where things can change in an instant, you just cannot go inserting yourself, trying to play hero in every altercation you come upon. That is an easy way to find yourself quite literally under the gun. It may not be taking direct action, but it can be standing up when you know someone is causing strife. It is the case throughout the history that I believe no dictator or grand evil ruler truly had any real power within themselves. Their power was fleeting, and the only power they had was the ability to convince gullible men to do their dirty work. This goes on today in all forms. We can have lost people looking for a cause, looking for someone or something to save them, but most of the time they simply fall prey to charismatic men just looking to influence the bored, angry, and mentally susceptible. If the average soldier, or the average man for that matter, were to simply say no, then there would have been no Hitlers, no Joneses, no Pol Pots. These men alone had no power, but they were able to convince seemingly decent men to commit atrocities on their behalf. It is not a matter of intervening to stop violence from happening. It is simply not participating. If gullible men stopped fighting for men who do not have their best interests at heart and are simply using them to further their own enterprises, then there would be no notorious men left in the world. Unfortunately though, there will always be lost men and women looking for a cause to fight for, and they find themselves doing things they never thought they would be capable of. So I know what Wyatt Earp is trying to say, but I tend to believe if you are going to fight, use a weapon that is outside the box and highly effective, like fighting a fire-type Pokémon against a grass-type. The greatest winner of a fight is the man who does not fight in the first place and will do anything to prevent it. This shows an evolved nature, not cowardice. But if a man has to fight, use a weapon that reflects your true nature, because evil men will use whatever weapon at their disposal. A good man who is resourceful, if forced to fight, will find a way to end the altercation as quickly as it began, by using novel means. Our final quote sums up the man. I'm Wyatt Earp, and it all ends now. These words show that this man is in control of his emotions, but also simply tired of all the drunken debauchery going on in his town. He's saying that he will use whatever methods he has to staunch the flow of violence and nonsense. We can see that a man such as this is as much a product of his time than anything else. The times tend to make the man more than the reverse. We do not see men like this anymore in our modern day, because there is not much need for it. The diaspora between men today and men of Earp's day is a chasm as wide as the Grand Canyon. Even the modern day lawmen have high standards to uphold that come along with the advancement of society. With pressures of technology at everyone's fingertips, in a time when men carried guns, just like men carry cell phones today, a man had no choice but to either be a victim or a perpetrator. That is why men like Wyatt Earp had to live by a code, a set of principles that would guide him. We can see that with his ventures into the law, he wanted to bring a measure of control to the world around him, shaped by his youth, then harnessing that control in his business ventures later in life. It was said this man went through his entire life, never taking a single gunshot wound. Is this only possible with an extreme amount of luck? Maybe, but also it is keeping your head in any situation. Even though he grew tired of the lawman life and went into business for himself with his brothers, we see that this life followed him like a haunting. Coming to a head at the OK Corral, his story shows that a man can forge his own destiny, make one hell of a name for himself, and still have his principles at the end of the day. His life shows us that sometimes the line gets blurred in pursuit of one's goals and ventures, and it is up to us to toe the line between what is right. and what is right in front of us. It seems to be about control, or a lack thereof. But with these words, Wyatt Earp took back some control in the lawless frontier towns he sought to protect, and then keeping his control by putting down the cowboy agitators at the OK Corral. Wyatt Earp's life offers several important lessons about character, justice, and resilience. Living in a time of widespread lawlessness, Earp showed the value of standing firm in the face of chaos, taking on dangerous roles to uphold order. Though known for his skill with a gun, he believed in using force only when necessary, showing that real strength lies in discipline and self-control. His life was far from perfect. He was also a gambler and sometimes operated in legal grey areas. But this complexity reminds us that even flawed individuals can make meaningful contributions. Earp's loyalty to his family and close allies further highlights the importance of standing by those we trust. Overall, his story teaches us about courage, restraint, and navigating life's moral challenges with purpose. Whatever his methods, Earp never did anything that seemed to go against what he believed was right. This makes a man unstoppable, but it also makes him dangerous.